Welcome to X-Men Evolution, episode 50, titled Ghost of a Chance of Cyclops is Waiting for Me, an X-Men animated recap podcast. We are in the home stretch, and there's only 2 episodes left after this, but we wanted this one to be a special one, so we got a guest. I am JC.
And I'm Rod. I am a musician, and I have other stuff on the internet you can look me up for, but today we're happy to introduce to you. God, sorry, I'm learning how to speak again. We talked about this off camera. Introduce our guest, Kellie.
Hi, everybody. My name's Kellie Faciane-Whisler. I am I guess a former internet person. I had some YouTube channels back in the day. Lately, I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Faciane. I play a lot of old games, Pokemon stuff, lots of Pokemon stuff. But I guess one of my not oft talked about loves is X-Men. Which I don't think I've ever done anything on the internet about X-Men, but that may change sometime shortly in the future, especially right now.
You could stream those terrible games.
Yeah, old games, terrible games, good games. Right now I'm playing Pokemon TCG.
You stream the terrible X-Men games.
Oh, the terrible X-Men game. Yeah.
Rod, stop giving away the content that I was going to do next year. Yeah, that was kind of funny because we were at a mutual friend's baby shower, and Alex was like, hey, Kellie loves X-Men Evolution. I'm like, why would I ever know that Kellie loves X-Men Evolution? Where would that have come up in conversation right. Since I also haven't seen you guys in person for 2 years?
Yeah, seriously. It was my sister and I's favorite show when we were growing up. Awesome. I think it was just extremely not beneficial. Influential. That's extremely influential on us. She's a really good illustrator, and so I think that the first time I saw her imitate drawing styles was us watching X-Men, and then I just loved watching it. I don't illustrate the X-Men, but she's not an illustrator for X-Men, but she has drawn many of them. Evolutions was always just something that we looked forward to all the time. All the movies we watched constantly, and my brother loved that what was it? There was a Wolverine video game. It's got the Wendigo in it.
Wolverine Adamantium Rage?
Origins, I think.
Oh, I heard that's the good one.
The one that was based off the movie. Shockingly good game. That's the one where in the intro he takes a pilot out of a helicopter and just throws him up into the blade while it's flying.
Yes. Yeah. It was so awesome. Yeah. We're an X-Men family for sure. Baseball and X-Men. That was my childhood, and Pokemon. But that was just me.
It's funny you mentioned Pokemon. I didn't know that that was where you started. Today, I ordered a Christmas present for myself on eBay that I've been wanting for a while, and it just came in today.
Nice.
Oh my gosh.
And it took forever to find a real one because I didn't know on eBay they're all reshells.
That's the Pokemon Game Boy Color.
Yeah, and I'd rather have one that's a little scuffed that's an original, has all the actual
it looks great. It looks really
it.
Awesome. What do you got in there right now? What are you playing?
Pod Racer. Or I guess it's just Racer. God. I love this game as a kid. I know obviously it would have been yellow version, but those are stinking expensive. And I can play it on everything else.
It's wild. Yeah, it makes me sad when I go into game stores and I'm like, I'm glad I still have mine.
Yeah, and luckily,
my Pokemon games.
Not a whole lot of other people loved Pod Racer. And this is one where I'm the cartridge matters because it had the Rumble Pack. So it's the only right experiences with this in hand. But anyway, so that was my I had one as a teenager, and then I sold it to move to LA along with a bunch of other stuff, and I've regretted it ever since.
Damn.
So this Christmas, one of my clients gave me a bunch of gift cards, and I was like, okay, this is gonna be it.
Honestly, really a top tier Christmas gift. I know that some people are I don't want to give people gift cards because it's too impersonal, but it's my favorite thing to get because then I'm I just get to choose. I don't have to explain myself if I'm trying to go to an Etsy shop to get something really weird and obscure. It's just I love a gift card.
Yeah, and we take it my family. We're a Korean family, so we take it a step further. We just either Venmo or Apple Pay each other. Oh, so it's just a rotating set of funds.
Clean, love it.
Nobody ever pulls the money out. Yeah.
Well, no, it's just funny, because technically you're only spending your own money, but because it shifted, you feel better about spending it.
Absolutely.
Well, it was a gift from Peter.
I completely vibe with that. Yes.
Anyway, so Cyclops is waiting for me. I don't have any transitions.
No, it's fine. We don't have segues in the show.
Is our weekly podcast series where we're going back and watching every single X-Men animated episode we can find. This podcast started with the original 1992 X-Men the animated series, building up to the release of X-Men 97. And along the way, we also launched our companion show called the Xavier Files with interviews of members of the X-Men community, including the voice actors from the series, and also our little shit poster / activist, Punker Ducky, who's fighting a good fight on social media right now.
If you haven't heard about Punker Ducky, she is a Romy stan, so the whole Rogue Gambit relationship, everything to her. This week has been posting Spotify recaps, but about her love of the relationship of Rogue and Gambit. It's been absurd.
Dang.
Yeah.
My sister was in that camp too, so I get it.
I was talking about she was calling out some DIY makers or whatever using unlicensed artwork.
Okay. Yeah, there's a dude who's literally ripping artwork from famous artists and reselling it as his own right now.
And AI art, I found out later.
Rough.
Or
That's
AI
not
art,
even
AI images.
Generative AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not calling that bullshit art.
Yeah, images. And then he when he was confronted, he called her fat. So that's fun. Anyway, go check out Punker Ducky's socials for how you can contribute to.
I'm on Punker Ducky's side.
The fight. Yeah. Well, she has all the information on there, how to report him on Makari and stuff. Anyway, back to once again transitions. Since season 2 of X-Men '97 is at least a year or more away off.
At least a year.
We're going back for the second half of our first watch of X-Men Evolution. Actually, we're in our third to last episode now, and we're preparing ourselves. We've been warned by everyone that it ends on a cliffhanger and never gets to finish, so cool.
Unfortunate, right?
We do want to make sure to congratulate everybody. It got announced today at the day that we are recording that X-Men '97 is nominated for Critics' Choice Awards for Best Animated Series. So big shout out to that entire team.
Really cool. Congrats to them.
And then also our buddy Guy, who is the voice of Sunspot, which we have the other Sunspot in this episode, but they showed off this week the Diamond Select bust of Sunspot, but it's in his transformed form. So he has little gold dots all over him and stuff like that. It's fantastic.
Sick.
Very nice.
How cool.
Some quick reminders. We are a recap show about a series that started about 20 years ago and finished about 20 years ago. There are going to be spoilers. If you don't want it spoiled for you, pause the podcast, watch the episode, and come back. We have made it through 2 entire series, actually 3 if you count the first season of X-Men '97, without ever getting sponsored or affiliated to Marvel Animation, Disney, or Disney+.
And don't forget to follow us on our social media at Cyclops IWFM Pod on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, and Facebook. And JC actually made us a Blue Sky account. Same username, but with all the Blue Sky junk after.
I kind of like Blue Sky. It's kind of nice there.
It hasn't gotten toxic yet, so that's always a plus.
It's not quite yet. Yeah.
It does have the porn bots already, though.
Oh well, I mean, they probably came way earlier. They probably were always there, waiting for us.
So I was one of the people who got into Blue Sky about a year ago. It was right around that time that Twitter had done its whole you have to pay to see more than 150 tweets a day. And I had gotten an invite and I created the account and nobody was there, and you couldn't send invites to other people until you had been there for 7 days. And I was just like, oh, it's Blue Sky, but it's literally just like a ghost town right now. And I was like, they lost such opportunity by taking a full year to get everybody onto the damn thing. So
yeah, but it feels like it's kind of picking up now, and at least it's less depressing than going on Twitter, for me at least. So it's been nice. Fully. I've been getting lots of memes, lots of memes, lots of art, a lot less existential dread.
Yeah. And then Threads, everybody hopped into that, and now it's just, hey, do you want your Instagram and your Facebook to post to a single thing? There they are. And
Threads
it's why
hot take city. I hate it.
Well, you know why though is because they started those bonus incentives for everyone, so you can tell they're all
everyone's trying to get a viral tweet. I see.
Yeah, or just enough interaction to. Funny enough, freaking Meta, if you're listening, I know your bots are. You still haven't fixed my account after 2 years. I was monetized, then I wasn't, and when they brought it back, my account glitched, and then they never brought it back. So I'm not part of that Threads thing. So I don't know what it's actually like, guys. Even though
it's
I was
not
previously...
good.
You're not missing much. Yeah, you're not missing much.
But no, I'm on Threads. I'm talking on Threads.
Oh, I see.
But I'm just not making money from it.
Oh, well.
Even though I'm beyond the threshold.
Well, now On to the show. Today we are talking about season 4, episode 7, titled Ghost of a Chance. It aired on October 11th of 2003. Currently sits at a 6.8 star rating on IMDb. Before we get into the episode, I do, obviously we only found out about you being an X-Men fan pretty recently. From the ones that were left at the time, was there a particular reason you like this one in general, or if we had given you full run of the entire series, would you still have picked this episode?
Oh, I don't think the full run of the entire series I would have picked this episode, but I definitely picked this one because I'm a big fan of Kitty Pryde specifically. And I also like this episode because it's Danielle Moonstar. And I was excited rewatching it, having seen New Mutants. Because it's like a similar version of the story, but like I really just dig the kind of like horror elements that both of those things kind of brought to this. So I got excited because when I saw it was like in the running for episodes, I was like, wait a minute, oh god, I would love to revisit this, because from what I remembered of it, I kind of remembered the plot of the episode, but like not a whole lot. So I was excited to come back to it.
I think this might be my personal favorite now. Like, I can understand if it's not everyone's, but I like that there's like a little bit of like supernatural stuff and mystery. But also, and JC knows this, like I love the superhero stories. Like the high school stuff at the beginning was cool, but I really love this as superheroes. Also, this was like a better version of New Mutants, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like the New Mutants thing is like, man, like magic is like kind of racist. and then like there's that huge plot hole about like they could just go outside the force field thing and stuff. At least the rules in this one made sense. It really is like
very teen slasher, which, while fun, I don't know, it was weird as an X-Men thing, but I liked it. Kind of like the New Mutants I'm really like flip-floppy about it, but I enjoyed it.
That's the reason.
This episode's great.
That's the reason like I was frustrated with it, because I thought the potential was so huge, because I like the idea of like a teen slasher X-Men movie. And also that it was kind of an indie film, because there was like 7 or 8 cast members for the whole thing.
Yeah.
And they somehow still didn't pull it. Like the end still was like, what?
So I will say I was a little bit thrown off by hearing her called Danielle as opposed to Danny, because every iteration of the comic I have ever read, I don't think I've ever seen somebody actually say her full name. It was it actually tripped me out. Granted, I wasn't reading when the New Mutants debuted, like that it was like Marvel graphic novel or whatever it was that the first one came out. So I probably didn't really start reading her until 2005, like House of M era. But I was just like, wait, Danielle, that's like, okay, got it. Just my own personal taste there. Before we get into the full episode itself, if you had the ability to choose any episode, obviously hindsight 2020, what would you have picked?
That's tough, but I kind of like the one where Nightcrawler gets trapped in his demon dimension.
You're the
like
second person
it's an early episode, but like where he gets like trapped in between. I like that episode. I think that's the one I would choose. I also really, really love Nightcrawler. Big fans. Again, really big fans in the Whistler household.
Let's actually get into this episode. So it starts off with Logan on a dirt bike in a canyon. I love the Saturday morning cartoon rules for Logan. It's the guy who could literally like just hit the worst road rash ever and he could walk away with it, totally no scars. But because it's Saturday morning cartoons, they're like, you have to wear a helmet, sir. Yeah.
And they brought back that soundtrack that I mentioned in like the first season of Evolution. It's that propeller head knockoff, or not knockoff. I don't want to accuse the composer. But clearly they were like, the studio was like, we want that song from the Matrix hallway scene, but we can't afford the licensing. So you write something for the show.
And then he does a few stunts, goes over to the entire group, and it's him, Bobby, Sam, Kurt, and then Rogue and Kitty. And it was a little weird. The girls got the ATVs and the guys got the dirt bikes. Like it was actually split perfectly between them. I was like, was that intentional? Like just the 2000s being the 2000s.
Very 2000s.
Yeah.
I always think it's fun when there's like like a school field trip situation. It's like one of my favorite setups. I love that they're all just like, yeah, no, we're going dirt biking this weekend, all of us. But I don't know, ATVs, I would prefer an ATV if I were to go out there.
I would die on either one, so it wouldn't matter. Yeah. Yeah. Either way, that thing is flipping and I'm going to be underneath it. So maybe the dirt bike is safer because that's less weight landing on top of me.
Yeah, I want the heavier one. If it crushes my head, I just want to go fast.
There's something to that, I have to be honest.
Yeah. Then we get a little bit of foreshadowing that pretty soon the entire area is going to be underwater. They're basically turning it into a giant reservoir, which I don't know how that actually works in real life. Like there were a bunch of...
That wasn't mentioned before in any episodes, right? That was just like a new thing, right?
Totally new.
There's a lot of things in this episode.
It a little bit like I should have known that, and I was like, maybe this was in it.
There's a lot of things in this episode that they like kind of like retconned from earlier in the season.
I actually was going to ask you guys because I'm not sure. Do you know, like, was the end of this show like abrupt or like ended early? Because there's only 9 episodes in this season, right? So
Correct.
I was wondering if it was so it was cut off early, and so we probably didn't get the full season as it was going to be.
Yeah, there was something where it was shut off, and like we've kind of avoided some of the details of it because we were trying to avoid the spoiler of that last episode. But everything we've heard about is that it was either cut off at a half season mark because the previous season was like 20 episodes or something like that, or that it was just the series ended when it did. It also had a weird airing order where like season 3 ended with 4 episodes that started in like August of this same year. So it was like August up until the finale was like straight through new episodes. So you had a half season and then a 9 episode season. So it was a little weird.
Yeah, I felt like the context of what is going on in this season was really just like, does anyone care about any of it? Like, is it like, are we like, this is just like one of those like kind of aside episodes where like nothing that's happening in the wider arc is referenced or talked about or anything. So it could technically go anywhere in the episode order. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it would fit in literally anywhere after season 2 when they debuted the New Mutants. It could have fit in literally any episode. It wouldn't have made a difference. So
yeah,
that was like the last 8 episodes because we were talking about that in previous episodes of like the cruise control episode. Like they went on a cruise in the middle of like a bunch of stuff, like the apocalypse stuff happening, and then like Rogue killed Mystique, but then like Nightcrawler and Mystique, Nightcrawler and Rogue hated each other, but then for like 2 or 3 episodes they didn't address it at all. Yeah, there was like 3 episodes where Rogue just didn't show up.
Let's be real. They also didn't do a great job in the episode where they were addressing the murder of the mom. Yeah. Like that they was still just kind of like, oh, she went off with Cajun, and you know they're like fucking around in the bayou, and then he saves her, and it's like it's all good. It's like she still killed your mom, dude.
Yeah, they still haven't really gone back to that.
No.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Yep, we'll find out. You get a lot of posturing between Cannonball and Logan. And this is kind of the most personality we've really seen out of Sam the entire series. We've had a few Sam is an idiot moments, but this is actually like Sam having a personality finally, which I don't like his personality. Kitty and Rogue start going off, and Kitty reminds me of if you've ever been to like a cowboy bar where they have like the mechanical bull and the guy operating the bull is trying to make it look like she's like humping the bull. Like she was bouncing really suggestively on the back of the ATV.
We literally said that. I was watching it and Alex was watching it with me and we were like, was that just like somebody's opportunity to like kind of do like a little like horny like animation there? It was very suggestive.
Yeah, I mean, out here in LA, we have the Saddle Ranch, and I had a bar back from home called Salty Dog Saloon. So I've been to bars with mechanical bulls, unfortunately, a lot in my life, and I was like, I've seen that exact motion many times in my life.
That was like absolutely their reference for animation.
2000s kids media was wild, man. Like, if you're not already, either on TikTok or maybe some Reels by now. I love watching Gen Z react to like 2000s media. Like recently, one of them was it was like a Muppets special, you know, like rated G for kids, and like I forget what it was. It was somebody was trying to get some like women into an area, and Rizzo the Rat straight up says like, "Man, I don't know how the producers for Girls Gone Wild do it so easily." And we're like, did they just drop that in the middle of a kids show? Like 2000s were wild, man.
There were so many more like ballsy jokes like that. I feel like that I remember now, like from the 90s and 2000s.
Yeah.
So there is literally a show called Liberty Kids, and it has a name of a pirate, and I'm not saying it out loud because I don't want our show to get flagged.
Wait,
like that's how bad the reference is. And I was like, if you Google this, it's going to set off alarms. Like, you cannot actually put that in. Rod, don't get arrested in the middle of
I'm not going
to
say it. I remember the show, but I don't remember the pirate's name. So now I'm like...
There's a pirate, and it's a bad name. Rogue and Kitty are going off, and then Rogue almost kills Kitty by starting a rock slide.
Casually.
And then we get the moment that works in the historical era that doesn't work anymore, is having a cold open with a little bit of a, I'm going to say it's pun and not try to, a cliffhanger going into the open. Yep. Come back, Kitty is falling, phases through a cliff, the ATV is exploding, and then she almost saves herself, but then, like we've talked about, this version of Kitty is not great with her powers still, because she's really good about like grabbing onto something or running through something, but then turns off her power. It's like a special bar on a video game, and it always runs out right when you need her. Like, she needs it the most, basically. And she gets knocked out. So I'm going to go a little off how our normal format is, because a part of this is like, I watched this episode twice, and I'm glad I did, because now I am like, wait, what actually happened, and what was happening just in Kitty's mind?
Yeah, because so much of this episode is like, trying to like mess with you a little bit, Inception-like, and you're like, wait, what is real? What's not? So yeah, I'm excited. I watched it twice too, because I was like, wait, do they ever reference any of this stuff? Like, are there hints? And there kind of are.
Yeah, it's like, Kitty's an unreliable narrator, understandably so, because of what's happening. But then the show kind of breaks a little bit of its own rules, because if this is all happening in Kitty's head, what is actually happening with the B plot with Logan and Sam at the same time?
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think about that.
Sam and Logan are racing, and then Logan sees the smoke coming up in the distance. Back over there, Kitty is about to have rocks fall on her, and Danny, or I'm going to end up saying Danny. I can't not do it.
I think that's
Danielle ends up pulling her out of the way. And I was super excited because luckily all the preview images didn't spoil who the character was for me, which has happened in certain episodes of the show. So, yeah. So as soon as I realized it was a Native American character, I was like, yes, it's Danny. I was very excited about that. So we get the moment where Kitty's a little like, oh, shoot, you saw me use my powers. And then Danielle is like, oh, no, it's actually cool because I'm a mutant, too. So I love just kind of the quick interaction between the two of them, especially because it obviously gives you the impression that Danielle has not been around other people for a while, especially those with powers. So
foreshadowing.
Yes. Everybody gets there. And Logan is like super concerned and just like lets it off on Rogue, like you abandoned your partner. And then that basically goes away for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, that's never resolved. She just kind of like got kidnapped and then just was returned. And now she's just like getting berated for leaving her partner behind, and then never resolved.
Yep.
I don't know. There's not much going on with her, like seemingly. It's kind of sad. I feel bad for her.
And also Logan and Rogue were especially close because of the situations they each had. So I was like, okay, well, throw that all away for a second, I guess.
Yeah. You're like, well, they're back to normal now.
Well, I guess if that's supposed to be maybe in the hallucination, then I don't know.
Okay, well, maybe.
That's the thing, is how much of that is actually happening and it's a version of what's happening and Kitty's just perceiving it because of Danielle, or is it all just a big illusion in her head and we literally none of that should happen? Like, that's the part where I don't know what their rules they set were for this. So it ends up tricking all of us because we're like, wait, which one thing did actually go down? So they're back at the Institute. Danielle is talking to Xavier. Rogue comes up, apologizes to to Kitty, and then Xavier telepathically gets everybody into the foyer because he wants to give the new introduction.
The scene made me laugh because it's like 3 seconds long, and literally Professor X is like, "Everyone, this is Danielle Moonstar. I'm sure you'll get to know her." And then Kitty's like, "Let's go!" And she like takes her out of the room immediately before anyone says hello, before anyone like even has a chance to like look at her. But
it feels very Kitty to do that. Like, that's actually feels like the kind of thing. She's like, yep, everybody meet her. By the way, this is my new best friend, Kick Rocks. So,
and that's part of her delusion, right? Is like, that's how she expects everyone to react, is just be like, oh, that's cool, go ahead. We all gathered here for nothing. We're just going to hang out here.
It is kind of interesting that, like, a lot of the scenes are really kind of shallow. And then is it because it's written from how Kitty thinks about everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or how she wishes. That's why I think like Logan yelling at Rogue was like Kitty's like, I wish he would just lay into her.
Yeah, her wish. Yeah.
But right before that, we do also get the scene that is one of the ones that we questioned. Did it actually happen? Where Sam is bragging about winning and is like tricking Logan into a rematch. And Logan's like, did I just get tricked? And it's like, did that actually happen now?
Because that seems real based on, because she wasn't there. How would she know about that?
Exactly.
So that is a little bit of a non.
Or the B plot is happening like separate from the day. That's wild.
Yeah, that's the part where it's like, and I think when, like, because I saw your reaction, Kelly, when I said the star rating on IMDb, I actually think a piece of it may be like, it's kind of like when an episode of a show does time travel and they're a little loosey-goosey with the time travel rules.
Sure.
I think this is a little bit of that, like, that part could have been tighter, and a few people who are, way more cynical than I am even being right now, were probably like, that deserves 0.5 less just because of that. Like,
I'm really lenient when it comes to silly things. I really am a big fan of like things that are kind of goofy and don't really make sense. I'm very lenient on stuff like that. So,
it's very much
I can see it.
Yeah. Did it make me smile? That's what I care more about.
Right.
Or X-Men 97 episode 5, did it make me bawl my eyes out like a baby at 12:45 in the morning?
Yeah, that's what I said about, I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Red One. It's basically like, what if Captain America saved Christmas? My friends were asking me, like, my brother was asking me, is it good? I'm like, no, you're going to have a great time though. Like, I had a great time. Like, none of it makes sense.
I think there's definitely space for that kind of media. It's something that I will argue for till the day I die. Some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's even worse, but like, it all is there for a reason.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, and now he has like a little bit of like a thing going with snow movies, because he also did Snowpiercer too.
Oh, there you go. And Winter
that
Soldier.
movie got weird. We also get a quick moment where it is Xavier talking with Logan, and he's asking, Logan is asking, well, what are the powers? And he explains it's a form of telepathy, but she also has deep emotional issues. And again, that's where it's like, did that conversation actually happen? Or is that something that Danielle implanted in Kitty, kind of like when you have a dream and you're looking at it from a third person perspective kind of scenario?
Yeah, I think I would, if I had to choose, I would put my money on that as the explanation for that, because the rest doesn't really make sense. But I guess because especially like with her end goal, which I won't spoil until we get there, but with her end goal of what she's trying to do, I think that would kind of track.
And that was the moment I realized who that was, because the name sounded familiar, but then when they said that, I had the flashbacks of the intro to New Mutants, the movie. I was like, oh. They
very quickly indoctrinate Danielle into their army, and they get her a uniform right away. And Jean, who has been elevated recently to being one of the instructors, is basically trying to get them cross this river thing that seems way too long from what the animation was, but we're not going to focus on that, and just get your entire team to the other side. You got Sunspot, you got Danielle, Sam, and Bobby, and the X-Men basically start pulling traps on everybody to stop them from crossing this river.
This is
and I love that immediately they just start taking out the team.
This part is one that made sense after the fact, because in the moment I was furiously writing notes of like, how does that work? How does that work? Like, cause like where Kitty like pulled the like was it Cannonball? No, who was it?
Oh, Sunspot. Yeah.
Sunspot.
She pulled Sunspot
feet
into the
rock. I was like, and then left him. I was like, is he going to be okay?
Come on now.
Well, no, we figured this out from the Juggernaut episode. Remember when Juggernaut was on the dam? Where if she pulls somebody into something and then lets them rephase, it like displaces stuff so they don't become body horror.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, kind.
It is that part I will give is
scientifically
consistent.
unsound.
But also
horribly unsound.
Yeah, it was like, but also like it just like the amount of like trauma that would like bring you in like a training session, you know.
Again, it's mutant indoctrination crew,
right? Yeah, and then Nightcrawler does something that I thought was wild too. Never mind. Okay, you're gonna probably go through all these.
I mean, you could jump right into it. Yeah.
Oh, I just saw like Danielle like yeets Jean away into like outer space.
Well, sorry, you did skip that one part. So they basically get Danielle and Bobby are kind of like abandoned in it, and that's where Danielle starts to have a freak out moment. So,
and then at the moment that happened, for me it was less their worst fears and more like their powers wouldn't turn off, or maybe because it's both. Because like Jean kept going up, and then Kitty kept falling through the earth, and
Kurt got stuck in the brimstone dimension.
Yep. When Kitty fell through there, that reminded me of that episode of Rick and Morty where they drop the lightsaber straight down, and then it becomes a problem, you know.
Yeah, dropping it perfectly straight to the center of the earth.
Yeah, thinking about sinking, scary. But you're right. It kind of was just like a lack of control on the powers, but maybe again reflection of Danielle's inner, like her own inner fear of not being able to control her powers. She's like projecting that fear onto the others not being able to control theirs.
And I could also see it.
Mean mug. A mean mug with that in that scene.
I could also see it, though, if you were a mutant, like, one of the biggest fears is that you're going to hurt people or yourself because you can't control your power. Like, we've definitely seen that with certain characters, like, when they like, go all out, and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna kill a bunch of people. Like, you know, there's always that one-off X-Men story from the comics where it's like, well, what happens if you can't control your power and your power is deadly? And I want to say it's probably the best issue they ever did of Ultimate X-Men. It was a one-off story, and Wolverine goes to a town because a kid has his power activate that basically makes everybody near him disappear and die. And Wolverine's the only one who doesn't get affected by it because of his healing power.
Brutal.
Yeah.
And that's essentially how Danielle Moonstar's like arc begins in the New Mutants movie, right? She like eviscerates her like community.
Yeah, I think she
summons that wolf thing, right?
I think she summons Demon Bear, and it kills a bunch of people in her community.
So, which was like, it's weird because even the first time I watched that, it was like, you can tell they set it up to be a mystery, but even me not knowing anything was like that was not like you spoiled it from like 30 seconds. the way they like shot everything.
All of a sudden everybody's back to normal, and that's where you find out from Xavier that it's like, oh no, you guys are good, it was just her powers, and then immediately apparently starts yelling at her in his office right after. So it's like, it's okay everybody, but then is berating her for it.
I gotta love anytime Xavier comes in with like, allow me to explain. Like, it gets me every single time. He's always like, where were you how close were you? You were so ready. You were so ready to say what's happening.
Oh, that's right. He just does kind of float in right out of like screen left, and like
he wasn't there. Like he was not. we were unaware that he was close by.
Yeah. And again, this is one of those where it's perfect. Of was this a moment that was actually projected into Kitty's head? No doubt. Yeah.
I like this idea though of this indigenous woman with mutant powers. Like, her manifestation of this moment is like, oh, this billionaire white man just rolled in out of nowhere with his own commentary.
And then started berating her for yelling she couldn't control. Yeah.
That's why she mean mugged.
Yeah. I'm on her side.
Listen.
By the way, the mean mug that happens when she was in the water was one of the worst animation cells I have ever seen, because she literally was like, it looked like Quasimodo from Hunchback of Notre Dame. Like, eyes were not pointed where they were supposed to be.
Thought the same thing.
There's some problems in this series with the eye placements. I don't know what the deal is, but yeah.
Yeah, when it was
This
zoomed
one's an
out, right?
episode. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you doing with those eye placements? What's going on?
They couldn't like dot it. Like we don't have time to go back.
I watched. I don't know if it was in this episode or maybe another episode. There was an episode where the colors in Kitty's eyes were reversed, and it was her. They colored the pupils white and the shine that in her eye black. And I was like, come on, guys, what is this? Who did this?
I watched this episode
I don't think it was
twice.
in this episode.
Yeah.
I think it was in another episode. Might have been a really early episode. But yeah. There's some eye problems. We got some eye problems in these episodes.
I mean, that's actually one of the things, like, because some people have very rose-colored glasses when they're like, the animation in X-Men 92 was so good. And it's like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great stuff in X-Men 92. There are also a lot of problems with the animation in X-Men 92. And they showed, like, there's a rogue where she has a worse cross-eye than what we just saw with Danny in this episode from season 5. It's actually the episode with Cannonball, I want to say. And it's just fucking atrocious.
There's this one scene we talked about in the 92 where the Blackbird is taking off, but you can tell that they just literally took the frame and shifted it up because there's a piece of dust that like on the side of the screen that goes with it.
That's so funny.
But it's like do you remember Simpsons, like when Homer voiced Poochie and they had to write him off the Itchy and Scratchy show and they just like pulled the frame straight up like, oh, Poochie's going to aliens now. It was like that.
Home planet, Rod.
Home planet. Okay.
Yeah. As she gets done getting berated, Kitty's like, well, why didn't you tell us that's a thing you could do? And you find out that Danielle has had this, like, fear of everybody who finds out what she could do. She ends up getting kicked out. And then, Kel, to your point, the other mean mug where it's like, yeah, he better not send me home. It was like,
she's like, you wouldn't do
okay.
that. She's like, he better not.
I like her.
So everybody is headed to bed, and we start seeing people having nightmares. Danny's obviously tossing and turning. Logan has flashbacks of probably what is this show's version of the Weapon X program where he's getting the adamantium. I feel like in this show we haven't really addressed the Storm claustrophobia that much. No. But this was like the first big like shot of like that's Storm's big weakness here.
Oh yeah, that wasn't addressed before, huh?
It was, but like lightly. It's not like 92 where it was like that was a key aspect of Storm's character.
Yeah, she got thrown into like solitary confinement in the first like couple episodes.
Yeah. Oof. Yep. And then Xavier has his moment where I thought it was kind of funny that they use the Sentinels here because the Sentinels only appear in one episode and there's one Sentinel.
Oh, okay.
Like we have not seen like an army of these things destroying mutants.
So unless you already know the context of Sentinels and their threat, like you're just like, oh, that one robot from that one episode?
Yeah,
I see.
Exactly.
Yeah, gotcha. Because, yeah, I mean, like, obviously, like, when I was watching it, I was like, oh, no, Professor, what a disaster.
At the same time, though, I wanted to see that story. That looked amazing with, like, this army coming from, like, once again, the geography completely changed because they're on the shore.
Yeah, Xavier's room jumps from location within the house. It's like he has the Lego that I haven't built yet of the Institute where I could just swap the location where I want it to be kind of scenario. Also, Rod, that's fucked up to say you want that story because that is literally episode 5 of X-Men 97.
Right. Well, I guess within Evolution because they gave us their version of everything else. And so I was like, wow, like this is, but once again, like liking the superhero stories, it's like, oh, how does this team fight off the army of Sentinels,
Yep. We get a moment between Xavier, Logan, and Storm where they're all freaked out. Kitty comes down and is, acknowledging that Danny has a problem. They need to be helping her and stuff like that and not just kind of throwing her, baby out with the bathwater scenario. That may have been probably the first thing for me that it didn't feel like Xavier and Logan. Like, I don't think Logan would kick a kid out who's struggling. Maybe Xavier, because his version of Xavier is a douchebag. But I think that was like, Logan wouldn't get rid of the kid if it's just scaring people. If somebody was getting hurt physically, maybe, but like he's dealt with all these other asshole kids in the Institute. So
perhaps during this part is when maybe Danny is kind of trying to influence her a little bit more to be like, okay, let's get this ball rolling. Like let's sow the seeds of mistrust, if you will.
That was kind of my vibe. Like the first time, like, and again, I got to watch the episode twice for it, so like maybe I'm overthinking that part, but like I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like Logan to me. Kitty cannot sleep. We see a moment where Danny wakes up in the middle of the night, and then it cuts to Kitty waking up, and everything in the room that could have been Danielle's is gone. And she runs downstairs, and nobody knows where or knows who Danielle is.
Everybody's just like chilling at breakfast, having like probably a fine day.
On the same side of the table. Together.
Breakfast meeting.
So the intervention, they're like, we've been waiting for you, Kitty.
So in a scene that's like, 2 or 3 scenes away, there's the moment where they're like, yeah, you've been asleep since your accident. Nobody seemed very concerned that the girl who is just in an accident with a concussion is literally running around the house. Like, they were actually pretty okay with her talking about a person who doesn't exist.
Yeah, she's been asleep for like a day and a half. And then the first thing that happens before like she even talks to anybody is she's like, where's that girl that was here? And everyone's like, there was no girl. And she's like, yes, there was. I would be so concerned. I'd be like,
that's
okay, we got a head injury. Yeah. We need to figure something out. Like
the person most needed in the episode right now is Beast, because he's the only one who's a doctor, and he should be checking on her. And then she got concussed, passed out, and they just left her in her own room.
Like after the
and
whole
now, if we're to believe, I mean, we're back in the real world. Like they are making this decision. This is not just a kiddie dream.
Exactly.
And I guess after the Rogue situation, they're like, yeah, this is just Thursday.
At least she didn't kill her parents.
Yeah, she didn't kill her parents. We'd have to leave the house to go find someone who's kidnapped. Like, we can deal with the concussion as long as she doesn't leave the premises, But this was the moment it became my favorite episode. That I was like, ooh, a mystery. And this is a classic 90s, 2000s mystery. Like, remember that one movie about the lady that was on the plane? She like her husband was in like her husband's corpse was like in the holding, and then she woke up on the plane and no one knew what she was talking about. Like, I love little mysteries like that,
Yes, wow, though. I have not thought about that movie. I don't remember the title of it.
Yeah, was it
I have
Julianne
not thought
Moore?
about that movie in a billion years. But wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I love that you said and spoiled the entire movie without saying the title of the movie.
Well, no,
because I know exactly which one you're talking
was it?
about.
I never actually watched the movie. That was just in the trailer. So
Yeah. I think the body being in the cargo hold is part of the spoiler.
Well, no, that's the thing, because she was transporting the corpse.
Okay.
And then like they couldn't find
Maybe
her.
I'm thinking
something.
a different movie.
But yeah,
I'm thinking the one where it was the lady where the kid was missing. That's a different one.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So I just that thing. I feel like in the late '90s, early 2000s, there was this like someone wakes up and they're like, what are you talking about, sir? And, not quite a trope, but it happened a lot. Like,
I would say it is a trope.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I've definitely seen it in a couple different things. We're like, there was never anyone there. What do you mean?
But it works. Like it works.
Oh,
like
it so
I'm
does.
down.
It gets you. You're like, oh my god, juicy. Okay, now what?
I started thinking, like, at that point too, did Xavier make everybody forget?
Yeah,
because that's the thing Chuck would do.
He would. He just would.
Yeah. Yeah, and as he's being like, no, you've been asleep for a few days. Stop calling random people on the phone, like trying to call this girl's grandfather up. And he's like, no, go to bed. I thought he was totally gaslighting her.
Yeah,
I had that suspicion as well, yes.
Was it Kitty called out Nightcrawler, right? She's like, oh no, Xavier's wiped your memory. He was like, well, at least they're aware that's happening.
No.
Yeah. She does, yeah. They have a little scene in the kitchen.
Yeah, they have the dream moment quick, and then after the dream, which we'll talk about super quick, that is where she straight up says, I'm sure Xavier just wiped your memory too. This Xavier has had zero problem just manipulating people's memories. Like, I want to say in the comic versions, 95% of the time it's like somebody like Destiny and Mystique. He was asked to do it or got permission to do it. But I feel like this Xavier is just like, oh, you found out my kids are mutants, and just bam, it's like, you don't remember shit now. So, yep. She lays down, she starts like tearing up, and then the tears become rain, and that's where this went full horror movie for me. So.
This got scary, and while I was watching this, I remembered like a nightmare that I had when I was a kid, and I was like, wait a minute. Did this episode give me that nightmare? And if so, how meta? Because I didn't associate. I remembered that dream, but I hadn't associated it with watching X-Men Evolutions. I guess what year did this episode come out? Do you have that handy?
2003.
I was 13. So maybe. Yeah. Because I remember having a nightmare where like I was walking down a hallway and the walls were leaking, and it was like a huge feature of the nightmare. And then when I was seeing this, I was like, is that what fucking put that in my head? Is it this episode? Because it looked very similar. But yeah, that shit was scary.
Yeah.
I love the level up on it because it reminded me of the Goblin Queen episode of 97.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. And then, Kitty, she sees Danny, and Danny like literally just looks like a ghost. And I was like, oh, is this now a full-fledged ghost story? Like, especially knowing the title of the episode, I'm like, has Kitty been talking to a dead girl this whole time?
I didn't know if they were going to go there.
Scary too. She was really like she looked like she hadn't eaten for a very long time. Like it, and I think they justify it a little bit later when we figure out what happened. But like seeing her in like the starved state was like really kind of freaky.
She's basically being like she needs help. She doesn't know where she is. Kitty wakes up, runs down to the kitchen, has an interaction with Kurt, and that's where Kurt is like, didn't Professor X talk to you about this? And that's where we see the accusation of oh yeah, he probably mind wiped you too. And again, everybody is super casual knowing he's doing that.
Super casual knowing he's doing that, and super casual that she's like still on about this hallucination.
Yeah.
Like, well, to them, I guess they believe, to them, I assume they must believe that it's a hallucination of some kind. And if so, why doesn't anyone address that?
Again, it's a concussion. This seems like a symptom of a concussion, and they have not had Hank look at her. She's in her own bed, and they have a med bay. We know they literally have a med bay. In this episode, we see the med bay.
Well, perhaps it destroys the illusion of the horror. It was an October episode, right? So maybe they're trying to
October 11th.
Lean real into that Halloween.
A little treehouse of horror.
So she then tells Kurt to teleport her to Dark Hollow, which I couldn't find anything reference to that. But there is actually a great Easter egg about a location, which we will get to towards the end of the episode.
I love Kurt's response to that, though. He was like, that's too far.
He laughed.
He's like, that's too far. I can't teleport. But that has literally not stopped him this entire series. Ever. In fact, there was one point he was sleeping and sneezing and teleporting to random places around the entire city. And never once in a wall or like with Kitty.
Yeah. Who is snotty and gross.
And then even later, they just appear there with Kurt's teleportation. So he got there somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was able to do it, in fact.
Yeah. He was like, I can't go that far. Oh, if I just take let's go. 5 smaller jumps, I could get there, and it's okay, apparently. And then the B plot continues where Logan and Sam are going to have their race to the top of the hill, I guess. And the New Mutants are trying to murder the two of them as they're racing.
Yep. So that gets back to your question about what was real and what wasn't, because it felt like it was retaliation for the previous training session. But if that didn't happen, then is this just them being violent kids?
It might be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they were just like, let's go crazy. Let's just do a race and go crazy out in the.
He can grow his head back.
But they were also trying to kill Sam because Berserker, who I don't know why that character exists, Berserker was trying to electrocute the water that Sam did this like the 90s backflip for style off of.
Yeah, if it was like if they were all trying to help him out to win the race, then like why would they also give him obstacles unless they were all just like, it's power showing time.
We're going to hurt everybody. And then we do see Magma in her full, like, lava form again. And that's only the second time we've seen that in the series, so.
The other one is the cruise control one?
Yeah, the island cruise episode, so. Kitty and Kurt are in Dark Hollow. It is fully abandoned because we saw a tumbleweed, which, by the way, ever seen a tumbleweed in real life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't move like that in real life. They're just heavy and just kind of like sit there.
And honestly, they slide a lot too.
Yes.
Instead of roll, they slide a lot. Yeah.
So maybe this is a different context, but like because I toured for close to 2 decades of my life, like whenever I drove through those areas that would have tumbleweeds, they were blowing down the road, and I just remember cracking up. There's one point where my last band, when we were touring, I think it was 2019. I think I'll see if I can pull the footage in time for this episode, but we had a GoPro on the front of my car as we were touring, and we actually caught one still of a tumbleweed the size of my car blocking the front of the car, and we were like, oh no, and then it was brittle, so just like, you know. But I thought we were done because I was in a Yaris. I didn't know if it was stronger than tumbleweed. Yeah.
See, I've had different experiences with tumbleweeds. When I was at WWE, there was a day where somebody had a great idea because wrestling was based in reality in 2007. Where a tumbleweed would go in front of the camera during an awkward shot. Somebody got a tumbleweed, and then the writer's assistant, thank God it wasn't me, tries to roll it in front of Vince McMahon, and it doesn't roll. It just kind of like slid 3 inches and then stopped. And I thought that poor man was going to be murdered.
Yeah, you really need
because it did not roll like any of us expected it to.
You need like the wind interaction for the rolling to happen. They probably should have gotten a set designer to make a fake one to do what they needed to do.
We had 45 minutes notice to get a tumbleweed. So
there's some prop guys out there that know that.
So many stories I wish I could tell that are under NDA.
Someday in 20 years, we're all going to be writing books.
How YouTube almost killed me.
Which time? No.
Oh, the time I had to accept a Streamy Award for a certain Paul brother. Yep. The payphone rings. It's Danielle on the phone basically saying time is running out. Kitty's freaked out. And it's such a good reveal. They nailed the reveal so good.
Actually good. Totally good reveal.
With the cord.
The cut cord. Yep.
Yeah. Kurt's like, what are you doing? And she's like, she called me. And he's like, I'm worried. And he takes the receiver and like he holds it up and you see that frayed cord. And then she freaks out. She's like, what on earth is happening to me? That was a good one. It was a very good reveal.
Granted, that has happened in a horror movie before, but it worked perfect for this episode, so I can't even give it a hard time. And then she runs to the phone book, which, you know, I would love, because we know we have certain listeners that are like 13 years old because Spotify tells us our demos. If you're one of those younger listeners, did this scene work for you at all? Like, I legit want to know in the comments, does this scene work if you've lived in a world where payphones and phone books aren't the standard? So,
yeah, I was talking to my niece over Thanksgiving, and she's 10, and about like, we were talking about pizza for some reason, and I was like, oh yeah, back then, you know, obviously there wasn't any apps, but like, we ordered our pizza unless if we didn't want Pizza Hut or Domino's, one of the big chains, we opened up and whoever had the biggest, most colorful ad in the phone book that said 30 minutes or less, that's who we ordered from. And you'd call and you didn't know how much it was unless there was a coupon on the page. You know?
No.
It's a setup for Home Alone.
And then she goes, "What's a phone book?"
You know, there was another time where I said something like, Grace, like, you know, your Uncle Rod's older than Google. She's like, "You're funny, Uncle Rod." I'm like, that wasn't a joke.
Kitty finds finds the Moonstar house in the phone book. It is on 760 Maggie Blue Road, and that was actually an Easter egg.
Ooh.
Oh, was it?
That is the name of the voice actress who plays Kitty. Her full name is Maggie Blue O'Hara, and I have given up looking up locations in this show because there have been so many times where, like, that's obviously a reference and it's so random and has nothing to do with anything. It wasn't like other shows where you have like the hyper fan who would drop Easter eggs constantly. This was the one time where it was an Easter egg, and I was like, thank goodness for the wikis that I do like fact checks against, and this was listed in there. So
that's so funny because I remember while I was watching it, I was like, what a weird name for a street.
Yeah, I was like, that's really specific,
especially because the way they made the hollows looked like you could see everything from the center. There weren't really streets and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm wondering if that, because there was they showed like a cross street sign, and I'm wondering if you could read the other street name, if that was an Easter egg too. But you have to go and pause at the frame and try to find it.
So I don't remember, but neither IMDb or the Marvel Animation Wiki gave enough of a shit to say what the cross street is. So
probably doesn't matter.
Yeah. And it's funny because some of the wikis are like, there's 3 lines as the entire episode description. This is one that has a fan base to it because the whole synopsis was there. Multiple quotes from the episode. Like, there was a lot put into this one. And it's always funny to me because you could tell of the episode that nobody gives a shit about and the ones that people really do care about.
Yeah.
First season, every episode filled out. Third and fourth season, you see a few blanks in there.
I'm pulling up the episode while you guys talk.
Yeah.
See?
So they go to the address. There's the old man on the porch, and says, what had happened. And his phrasing is great. He's like, everybody had enough of her. So it's like this dude is living in an abandoned town by himself. And I'm like, that's weird. And then we get
For
the
a while,
exposition.
too.
Yeah. And then we get the exposition that she's like, oh, yeah, she went hiking and then never came back. And it's like last week. And it's like, no, 2 years ago.
2 years. So this guy's just been alone in this town because I assume that they all left before she left, right? And so he's just been alone in this town for 2 years.
Yeah.
What's homie doing?
It's like
sitting out there.
Yeah. Yeah, because I got the impression it was everybody left and then she left on her hike. It wasn't.
She felt bad, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that she was, psychically terrorizing these people's dreams and they left after. Like, it was.
Right.
This dude has been sad for this long. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he would have mentioned, like, oh, she left, but the dreams didn't stop or whatever.
Yeah.
But
same.
I feel like he would have given the context of the episode, but he did not say that. He just said, like, everybody had enough of her and then she left. So, I think he's just been sitting there in that chair for 2 years.
Living the dream. I want to be the cranky old man on the porch. That's my goal.
We just need to get you a porch.
That's true. I live in LA, so no porches, no lawns.
No porch.
So I did find I can't read it, but I have the screenshot now, so I guess we'll put it. I'll put it up in the edit. If you can decipher what this says, like listeners, you give it a shot. It looks like it says "hey" or "may," then like an initial, and then like another word, but I can't because half of it is obviously covered by the other sign. But the first word looks like "may" or "hey," so maybe it's another thing, or it's indescript. The characters.
Oh yeah, because there was one episode where it was like the Bayview High sign, and then underneath it was basically Lorem Ipsum, like not even trying to hide it. It was like big letters that did not make sense.
Was it evolution or was
it looked like AI generated stuff? To be totally honest,
was it evolution or 92 that Beast was on the computer and it was just like an IKEA website or something?
92.
92. Well, it wasn't IKEA. Yeah. It was like some other catalog. Website.
Oh yeah, it was a catalog description of like a product, basically. Like they just found it and they're like, yeah, good enough. Throw it under a filter.
Yeah, it was like a table, and he was like, yes, these are Magneto's stats. Of like, or the wooden table.
The shout-in florist. Yeah. Yep. We get back. Sam and Logan are still racing, and then I love that they even come up with a phrase for it of it being cannonballing it because, again. I like Sam, but this version of Sam is just fucking stupid. Like, there's no nice way for me to describe him. Yeah, he uses his powers, crashes, and just shy. It's very tortoise in the hair style of just you got cocky at the end. And I mean, Logan's moving a little bit faster, obviously, but still just crosses the line clean. And then Bobby's like, what was the phrasing? It was like,
he was like, did I win? And then Bobby's like, you won our sympathies, and throws the finish line on him like dejectedly.
2000s mic drop.
So funny.
Yeah. In the context of modern day Bobby, of finding out that, main comic continuity Bobby is gay, I would have loved to have heard that redubbed with like the bitchy version of Bobby at that point, as opposed to like angry bro Bobby.
I think the line would have played even better in that context. Yeah. It was funny to watch Cannonball just ping pong off of everything. Like that was like it was a comedically disastrous crash.
Mm-hmm. So Kitty and Kurt end up getting back to the canyon, and they figure out somehow Danny is communicating, and they want to go back to the crash spot. And then Kitty just dives into the water and just starts sinking below. And with her awful level of control of her powers, that should be a death sentence.
Risky. I guess also, she's like not something I would ever want to do. So risky.
Yeah, because she doesn't know how deep it is.
Yeah, right.
And every other time she's done that, they've sent her down with safety gear, like helmets, like
Oh yeah, literally at the end of the previous season, she has a trauma moment because she's going into the Egyptian pyramids the catacombs below the Sphinx, and that just freaked her out by going underground for that long.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't need to worry about that.
No. Kurt shows up to the rest of the team. And again, this is where it's like, what was the B plot real, or was it all fake? And this was a weird coincidence and stuff like that. And it's like, tells him Kitty's down there. We need to go get her.
How does Kurt know that they're out there? Well, I guess maybe like, it doesn't make a lot of sense. How would he know that they were out there unless it was real? And how did he find them? Because they weren't there. They didn't arrive together.
Yeah, it's also a pretty big canyon, unless he is like literally just like ping ponging all over the place like looking for any help.
Like, look, there's my friends. Convenient.
They're out here somewhere.
Kitty ends up finding a cavern that is filling up with water, sees a spot that gives her the flashback to the walls within the dream.
It didn't
and then
really
she sees...
look like the walls within the dream, though.
Not at all.
I was like, why did they do that? Like, couldn't they? I'm sure they could have drawn a rock that kind of resembled that hallway, but it literally was just like fading over like a completely different looking rock. I was like, okay, it's a choice.
It's like if you tried to explain tracing to somebody and they didn't listen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or they forgot to make that image, or like just take the cell from the previous scene and the cell from the current scene and just...
Yeah. Yeah, it was two separate animation teams that didn't talk to each other. Or one guy described it to his boss and then the boss described it to him. So it was a game of telephone as to what it was supposed to look like.
That might not be too far off, because I just saw like a little featurette about, was it Making Invader Zim? And
I love that show.
So I didn't actually get to watch it when it was out, but I guess there's a scene where there's like a Godzilla stomping through town. And they said some animator didn't communicate with another, and the Godzilla ended up being like cute and stomping through town, and it was supposed to be menacing. But they didn't have time to redo it, so they just had the composer rescore it to some like goofy music to make it like a comedic moment. And I'm not familiar with the show
because it was quicker and easier to rescore.
But they said that ended up making like an iconic scene for the series or something, because it went from
the show.
It started like
chaotic.
Dramatic.
Yeah. The show's super chaotic. So like I feel like knowing that it was an accident is exciting to me, but like I feel like it wouldn't like an easily cover-upable accident because of how chaotic the show is, which is so good. I loved it.
It wouldn't have ruined the tone of that show, totally. Right. But then we do see Danielle, and that was almost confirmation for me that it was a ghost. I thought it was literally her ghost had been stuck. Yeah, she's been here 2 years. She's got to be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, and because she was just blue, like completely blue. I was like, oh, wait, so she is dead. Because I was kind of like of the opposite opinion. I was like, oh, so she's down there. She's like, whatever. She's down there. And then I saw her like laying there and she was blue and transparent. And I was like, oh, she is dead.
Yeah, and passed out.
Oh, it is a ghost story. And I got excited, but that was short-lived.
Yeah. Right. When she faded into her like normal tone, like not blue.
Yeah. When she woke her up.
I was like, are they going to show a dead child on this show? Like, what?
One could only hope.
What in the world?
Yeah.
It seemed like it was going that way for a couple of seconds, but then
she woke up.
Yeah, she woke up. We remembered that it was on a kids program.
And it's pretty wild because it's like, okay, it put her in like this hibernation state. So
I didn't buy that.
I mean, I agree. It's a stretch on the power. But
I'm going to splice together the moments where you're like, I'm really forgiving. Cut to now.
Yeah.
No, but I love that effect. I was like, that was too far. Like,
yeah,
I'm with you.
But it also makes you question, like, let's assume that the race hadn't happened. So that means the flooding would have killed her because there was nobody else that she was able to communicate with in any way. Or even if the reservoir didn't get built, would she just have slowly like degraded over time, and it's kind of like a mummy scenario down there?
How long does it last? How long does would the hibernation have lasted?
Right.
And also because in Kitty's dream in the hallway, she was so starved, like that made sense to me because I'm like, oh man, she hasn't eaten for 2 years, but then she was normal when Kitty found her. Again, probably because like they're like, that's a little too dark to show, but I think that it probably, if we were gonna, rewrite it and reanimate it for a modern adult audience, I think that she definitely could have either one been dead or two like shown the effects of having nothing for 2 years. I bet she probably would have. I mean, aside from the reservoir flooding, but she probably would have eventually wasted away. She had to have, right?
Yeah, I feel like
her powers aren't self-preservational in that way.
No, not at all. There's nothing about her powers that scream self-preservation in like a physical capacity.
Depends how powerful Logan's exposition powers are. Because he was the one that said that, right? Or was it him? Yeah, that was like, oh, her powers helped her hibernate. Or like, oh, thank you for that.
Yeah, I think he and X were talking. Yeah,
Charles said it.
Like, okay, he's like, so just say something else that makes it okay.
So she's awake. She's like, oh, shit, you're real. Thank God. Because she probably thought she was hallucinating. And Kitty cannot phase up, which is it's a great way to think about that power. Because I always love she could walk through stuff in a horizontal plane, but she goes down. She can't go back up at that level, especially like into the water with another person.
And she said that Danielle was too weak to go with her, right? So that means like your subject has to have some stamina, some like level, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but, it's not like Vision, who could just do whatever the fuck he wants.
Now that I'm thinking about it, though, she phased up to, well, that was in her dream, but she phased up to grab Sunspot and pull his legs down.
Oh.
You know what? She has phased up at times.
She has phased up through floors occasionally.
That far or something.
But yeah, probably not like... Yeah, I always wonder about that, right? Because like if she's in a cave, can she walk into the wall of the cave and then climb up? Or does she have to have some sort of momentum to do something like that? Like I can imagine like, her not being able to touch the ceiling and so not being able to go up that way. But like if she went like, boop, boop, like a little U-turn, like... I don't know. Maybe that would work.
Or get lost in the rock. That's the nightmare. That's the horror.
Oh yeah,
movie.
that is a nightmare. Yeah.
Well, because she would have the advantage of gravity too. Like she could go down faster than she could go up.
That's true.
And then she also needs to use her own power to have Danny phased at the same time, because we had that episode with the train where she couldn't phase the entirety of the train and almost killed a bunch of people in Bayville. So yeah. Then we get the New Mutants are kind of like using their powers, and Magma's powers should have probably killed them. Like Magma knowing when to stop the lava from going down. Like if she was over by like 6 feet, they'd be dead.
There's so many liberties when it comes to Magma and things.
Yeah,
Magma is so dangerous, and like it's always used as like a plot device in cartoons, but Magma just doesn't perform like Magma really would. I think even being that close to rock that superheated would cause the water that was in there to like start boiling.
They get down there, there's just like boiled corpses.
Again, the adult version.
Yeah, the boys version. I think that might have been the
it's
only...
like that corridor digital thing where it's what if Spider-Man was realistic, and it's just like he picks up a person off of a web swing and they just splatter into a million pieces.
Speaking of, a couple months ago at that event where my freaking jacket got stolen, I actually, before that happened, I met Alan, the guy that made the viral video of Spider-Man boinking on the Disney Avengers thing. I met him he has some great stories. I think he has some videos you can go check out where he's like, he got in trouble with Disney, and then they were like, do we hire you or sue you?
Yeah.
Maybe he's got your jacket.
You're right.
I love from the Spider-Man video, there was the moment where it was like, oh, this is obviously fake because nobody's reacting. And then like within a month and a half or so, it really actually had a malfunction.
Yeah.
And people reacted to it.
So going back to Magma's thing, I think that might have been the only small function of the cruise control episode is they made sure to establish there that she has like this like connection with the Earth. So I guess if you want to really chalk it up to something, it's probably that 2000s like Pocahontas kind of thing, where like if she has a connection with the Earth, then like she's blasting into it, she just knows.
She just knows.
No.
Yeah.
You know,
do you guys hear the drums happening outside my window right now, by the way?
Oh, I assumed it was mine because there's a venue across the street from my apartment, but that's you?
That is a person going down the street with a drum set right now.
Hey, free show for all the listeners.
Free show.
You still have to do a 2-drink cover, though, so the Venmo us.
Yes. Kurt gets down there and is able to teleport everybody up. And then we get... What this show is famous for is like a 30-second wrap up, because this happens when it was like 56 seconds left in the episode. And I was like, how are they getting them out of there this quickly? And then it was, Danielle in the hospital room. And they're like, yep, the grandfather is on his way. And and we get that moment with Xavier explaining, oh yeah, her power kept her alive, which Kelly doesn't believe, obviously. And Logan's like, oh, it's like an out-of-body experience, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, and he's like,
it was so
the power
fast.
of the mind is amazing. Pop, credits. Blackout, immediate. It made me laugh how abruptly that episode just like, whoop, done.
Like, and we've joked about it. This is the most abrupt end to an episode of the entire series, unless something happens in that finale that we don't know about yet. Like, this was, danger, danger, danger. 20 seconds, you are out, and it's hitting the credits and the music.
Like, they're good. We're fine. Do you think that was cool? Yeah. Blup.
Yeah.
Done.
But now the situation that was like presented at the beginning of the episode is actually happening, right? They have a young woman with like some mental troubles with the power to put your worst nightmare in your head. She is now in the building for real.
Yeah. Does she now?
And and she was projecting it for miles away.
Right.
Like, it wasn't just like, this wasn't just happening when Kitty was there. Shit was happening all over the place in real time for Kitty. Like, you know, sometimes like the trope is somebody gets knocked out, they experience a thing, and then they wake up and it was like, oh, you were just sleeping for the last hour and they thought it was 3 days. This literally was over time and distance that this actually worked on Kitty. So
yeah. So I wonder if like the only reason that they were able to connect is because she got within a close enough proximity to her that they somehow connected, right, by falling down into the ravine. And then so if she got close enough to her that like she could reach out with her mind and connect to Kitty, was it just like that connection that had happened that like she was able to just kind of like maintain and hold on to? Because I mean, I didn't want to get into it too much, but like the very first scene when Kitty wakes up and Logan and everybody finds her, Danny's standing there and she references to her. She was like, he's like, oh, what happened? And she's like, I had a guardian angel. And she looks at Danny, but nobody else does. Right. And so like, you know, maybe she just was able to kind of like keep that psychic connection over all those miles just because they had a proximity at one time. But I don't know. Like telepathy, I guess you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah. The power of friendship has no bounds.
I mean, that's literally what it was we became friends, so you're not wrong.
Because that's the psychic rapport that they explain away with Jean and Scott, right? Only this time they do with like Kitty and Danielle.
But like tension. Lots and lots of tension.
So we're waiting to see the affair that happens with these two then. Who's going to be the third there?
I know, it never pays off. I felt like there could be romance vibes. Not in 2003, unfortunately, but like
although Stephen Gordon,
they had the moment when they said hi to each other for the first time, and they were close, and it was like,
and you're like
it did feel like instant connection vibes. Yeah,
Stephen Gordon, we interviewed him in the first or second season, and he did say that they tried the best they could to put some of that in there, as much as because did he say
with
one of his
Nightcrawler specifically?
Yeah, because was it one of his kids or one of the other animators or writers' kids? Someone's kids on the staff.
I don't want to speak out of turn, but I do believe it was somebody in Steven's, like his kid, possibly.
Yeah, so they were like, we want our kids to be represented in this, so they're like, well, we'll go as far as like the network censors will let us.
Oh, that's chill. I like that actually. Yeah. Because that makes sense. Because I really felt it between Danny and Kitty for a minute. So glad they're friends. Hope they remain so. Can't wait to see their relationship develop in the next episodes.
Right.
And then the only other tidbit of trivia that I found about this episode. So apparently in the comics, Xavier and Danny's father are close, and that was why the grandfather ended up sending Danielle to the Institute in the comics. But that's the only thing I was able to find. So, because like I said, I really didn't start reading anything that Danny would have been in until the House of M era. I was not reading New Mutants when that was like in its main publishing, and then there was like that whole like era where that team was kind of forgotten too. You know, like when X-Force came out and X-Factor was there. Some of the members of New Mutants became X-Force, but Danny was like kind of like shifted like to the side, I feel like.
I see.
Like her, Warlock, Cypher, Armor, they were just kind of like not really talked about in that 95, 97 era. So
my first time that I was aware of her was the New Mutants movie, so I know that does not make JC happy.
It's fine. I mean, I'm used to it at this point. Our favorite game is, 1, does Rod know who the character is? 2, if he does, is it from an action figure or like, it's like the Marvel trading cards and stuff like that. So, yeah. So that is our episode. Kelly, thoughts that we might not have covered as we were going through all this?
Oh, I don't know. I really just love this episode as like a bit like a total one shot, kind of like out of sync with all the rest of the season, but still kind of fun. Love like I was saying, towards the beginning, love the horror elements of it and the fact that they kind of did push it and get a little bit scary in like the kids show. Good stuff. I think that I think I get why maybe people are like, the plot doesn't make sense, but I think that I'm willing to let that kind of just like be like a little bit loosey for for the reveals that they managed to like do quite well.
Rod, make sure to add that at the end of your Kelly compilation of her being contradictory to herself.
I do that all the time. Got to keep you guessing, otherwise you're not.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I was happy because the modern version, which I have been reading, like, I do really enjoy the character, so I was happy to see her in it. And now I just feel kind of bad for Armor because I'm pretty sure she's the only one of the original New Mutants who doesn't get represented in any way, shape, or form in this show. But they had Jubilee as a New Mutant for a hot second, and they have Bobby as a New Mutant, so it is what it is, I
guess every character needs like that series they're neglected in, right? Like the movies, it was historically Jubilee. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because and this was the Sam episode. Like, everybody has had their moments, and it's kind of sad knowing we're going into the finale of it and knowing which characters didn't get their episode. Like, the one for me, not because I care about the character, because I actually think the character sucks, but Berserker, there's a moment where there's like the whole Morlocks interaction with him where it seemed like they knew him on like a deeper level, and that just straight up is never going to get addressed now because they never touched on that. But they did Easter eggs like 3 times throughout the series of there's some connection to him. Like, they called him by his real name. And I want to say that was the first time we ever actually heard his real name. So
also, your girl Boom Boom. Like, unless she...
Oh, yeah, she just disappeared after the fucking cruise.
But it's also like...
She fell off the boat.
But it's inconsistent because she shows...
She was definitely drunk.
Yeah. She shows up to stuff like the cruise where it's like, are you with the X-Men now? Because didn't you just leave for the Brotherhood? Or you just left the Brotherhood too? Like, but unless she comes back in those final moments with Apocalypse, she's like, oh, I'm a horseman now. Then, like, yeah, there's no room for her to fit in the next, like, episodes.
You know the meme where it's like the Ralph Wiggum getting thrown through the window? Yeah. Because... that would be Boom Boom being a horseman of Apocalypse. He would hear her talk for 35 seconds and just yeet her. He would just, I'm not dealing with her shit. So
fun. Yeah, this is I think my favorite episode personally, just because like I love the little like mystery elements and stuff. And granted, it wasn't the most clever reveal, but it was still something. It was like something to chew on through the whole episode. I was like, oh, what is going on? I love it.
Yeah. I like that it just made me guess too, because like I said, I had multiple theories throughout of what was going on, and like when they showed her in the cave, I legit thought she was dead, and I thought this was a true ghost story. Nope. Kel, tell people where they can find you, and obviously the links will be in the description. So.
Oh, well, you can find me on most social medias at PokeKellz, PokeKellz, and then on Twitch on Tuesdays and Fridays at twitch.tv/Faciane, that's Facianea. Otherwise, I'm mostly talking about, I'm mostly just talking about Pokemon on the internet, but, there is a secret project that is X-Men related that you may see me on in the future. So I don't know, keep your ears out, all you listeners out there. I'll let you know when that's ready.
I may have said, yes, I want to be involved in said project about a very specific aspect of it. So yes.
So that's about it. Otherwise, shouted out both of the things. Yep.
Awesome. And then the last thing before I do my final wrap up of the episode, big shout out to Andy from the Newton Brothers and Ron Wasserman, because Rod and I got drank under the table by the composers of the X-Men theme songs.
Hell yeah.
It was wild.
That was supposed to be a lunch that ended up being 5 hours.
Yeah, so. We started off at like a Sunday brunch. Then we're like, oh, we'll stay for happy hour. And we're like, it's 7:30.
thank you, everybody, for joining us. If you have any thoughts, make sure you drop them into the comments for either the YouTube upload, the official Instagram post about this, or even the Spotify comments, because people are actually using those. So now I have to pay attention to that. If you like what you heard, we would appreciate a rating on the podcast app of your choosing. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, and, of course, CastBox. We want to be number one on CastBox.
Because nobody uses it.
We won't be, but we want to be. Yeah.